Hi, hello, my name is Donata and welcome back to the Horror Shelf. Today I'm filming from the floor because I felt like sitting on the floor. What can I say? I have a little water with me. I made a lot of notes for this video because I have a lot to say today. Let's just get into it. So today I'll be talking about the books I read in June, which are not a lot of books. I only read 3 books, which is not normal for me. I think I read about 5 books a month-ish, but in June I was really busy. I was abroad for 2 weeks and then I went to a weekend festival. I worked during the week. So I didn't really get to reading a lot and I was quite stressed also because I was abroad for work. It was quite stressful, and when I'm stressed I can't read for some reason. So yeah, I only read 3 books, but it's an interesting combination of books once again, because the first book I read was a dark romance book and it's really fucking unhinged. That book is insane and it was so bad. It was so bad. That's like half of my notes. Half of my notes are on about how bad this book was. So then I read a classic book. I think it's a classic. And then I read another like spicy romance book, but it wasn't dark romance. It was just romance with a lot of doing the nasty in there. So it's an interesting combination of books once again. As you might have noticed, I like to read weird ass books. So let's just get into it. I will grab my notes. My whole book of notes. The first book I read was the dark romance book, and it's A Little Stranger by Leigh Rivers. This book was so weird. It was so strange. And I don't really read dark romance, but my friend was like, this book is absolutely unhinged. You should read it. And I was in the mood for a weird ass book. I was in the mood to be disturbed. And normally I read horror books to be disturbed, not dark romance. But I was like, let's change it up. Let's try this unhinged book. Let's trust my friend's recommendation that this book is crazy. And boy did it not disappoint. Like, my Goodreads review of this book was 1 star. And then I wrote, "Run, little stranger. Yes, please run away as far as you can from this book. Thank you." That was my Goodreads review. That should already say enough. So I'll just read the back of the book to you. I don't have the book with me actually because I read it on my e-reader. So I wrote down the summary of the book in my notes. Otherwise I had to look it up in my e-reader and it's annoying. And I'm filming on my phone, so I'm doing it the old school way. I feel like an old school teacher or something. So the back of the book. Be ready. Be ready. Make sure that it's insane. The back of the book says, "Owning her is all he ever wanted. She betrayed him, and now he wants revenge against his foster sister who became his forbidden obsession the second he laid eyes on her." Now, the second he laid eyes on her, he was 8 years old, by the way. That's insane. Calm down. After she sent him to prison for years, he's free and ready to haunt her. Everything about Olivia belongs to Malachi Weiss. Her mind, her body, her soul, her fear, her pain. On Halloween night, he can no longer lurk in the shadows. All he has left to own her is her heart, even if he needs to take it. Well, and actually this whole book comes with a trigger warning list. I will read the trigger warning list to you also, because then you can kind of understand how unhinged this book is. And like, not to kink shame, but some of the stuff in here is just, we listen and we do judge, you know? And the one thing they forgot to mention is a trigger warning for how fucking bad this book is. They should have put that in there, but okay. So the trigger warning list says somnophilia, CNC, dubious consent, drugging, branding, choking, brother-sister kink, knife play, primal play, blood play, pain, screwdriver, yes, screwdriver, fear, light breathing. Now I wonder why light breathing. Why don't just make it heavy breathing? If you're already there, why not just make it heavy? I don't fucking know. Anal and spider play. So That's a lot. And you know, I don't kink shame, but brother-sister play really... You know, the whole book wouldn't have been as bad if that whole element was just left out. You know? Because some of the scenes, they were quite nice. And then they started calling each other brother and sister again, and I was already like, oh, that's nasty, please don't do that. I'll just give a brief rundown of what the book is about with spoilers, because I don't know how else I can convey how fucking weird as this book is without spoiling. I'm sorry, but okay, so you follow Malachi, and oh, my hands look really big like this. Sorry. You follow Olivia and Malachi, and they are foster brother and sister. They live with their parents who adopted them. Malachi starts getting obsessed with Olivia when he's like 8, and they have this extremely close relationship together. Like, way too close for brother and sister. Way too close. And then that kind of develops into even more closeness, if you know what I mean. Like, they start doing the nasty together, even though they are family. Like, not blood related, but they are family. So it's disturbing as hell. And it all starts with them being like, oh no, we shouldn't do this. And then they do it anyway. And like, Olivia is annoying as hell. She's every time she's like, oh no, you're my brother, we shouldn't do this. Like, first of all, no, you shouldn't do this. Like, that's disgusting. I'm sorry, that's weird. And then she like instigates the whole scene, even though she's like, oh, we shouldn't do this. And then she does it anyway. Like, girl, make up your mind. Because Malachi, although like from the beginning, he's like down for it, but she's like hesitating. But then every time she's like, we shouldn't. And then like she starts doing, she starts it essentially. And then she's like, oh, you're manipulating me. But actually she's manipulating also. Okay, so they start doing the nasty in secret. Then a scene happens where Malachi almost kills their father, like pushing him off the stairs, because their father like ran into them while they were doing it. This man says, he interrupted my meal. Ew. And then he almost kills their father, and then they start doing it on top of his almost dead body in a pool of blood. Now, why is this book not considered a horror book? I don't fucking know. Because a while ago I read a thriller actually, and kind of the exact same thing happened. But in the thriller book it was meant as like disturbing and weird, you know, and like showing how messed up the character was. And in this book it was also meant to be disturbing and like shocking, obviously. But it was also kind of meant to be hot. Now that's weird. That's weird. I'm sorry, that's weird. No. Absolutely not. Anyway, he gets sent to jail. She doesn't. And then he's in jail for a long time. And he's so bitter. And, oh, she because of her, I'm in jail, blah, blah. Then after a few years, he gets out. And he starts stalking her. And, like, breaking into her house and drugging her. And then assaulting her, essentially. Why is that considered to be hot? Anyway, and he stalks her and he has like video cameras in her house and then one day he's like, I'm gonna kidnap her on Halloween. He's gonna kidnap her on Halloween. Or so he does, and then he locks her into a shed and they do even more, and then he falls in love with her again. After doing it a few times. Sir, make up your mind. And then the worst part is, they decide to get married. And their mom is like, yes, this is a great idea. Even though they're fucking family. That's like, the whole ending was like a fever dream. I was like, is this even like actual part of the book, or are the characters dreaming this? I'm not sure what's going on here. Now, why was this book so bad? First of all, the writing is written like a fan fiction. Also, things just don't make sense. They don't fucking make sense. It's so nasty. And then also, Malachi, he has like selective mutism. And they say it's caused by some trauma. So I was really curious, like, why does this man not talk? And you never get an answer. They just don't tell you. And then at the end of the book, he talks. Even just thinking back about this book, it's so bad. And I don't understand why people consider like characters like him to be attractive or hot. Like, he's literally a psychopathic, stalking, aggressive asshole. Why do you think that's hot? I just don't understand. I don't understand. And he's like, oh, I'm so dark and mysterious and so jealous and protective. Ooh. What the fuck is hot about that? I don't get it. I really don't. I like a lover boy. I like a sweet lover boy. I don't like these weird ass dark romance dudes. I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it. So anyway, I gave this book a 1 star. And honestly, for how my friend described it and recommended it to me and for what I wanted to read, it actually lived up to my expectations. Because she said this book is deranged, and it absolutely was. It was even worse than I thought it was gonna be based on the trigger warning list. That was A Little Stranger. Do I recommend this book? No, except for if you are in the mood to read something that's absolutely fucking deranged and bad and just so bad it's funny. Sure, go for it. Keep in mind that there's a lot of smut in this book. So yeah, it's a dark romance after all. But yeah, that was Little Stranger. Then I have something completely different, which is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. How did I go from Little Stranger to Clockwork Orange? I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. So is this a classic? I think it is. It's also been made into a movie, which I haven't watched yet, but I'm really interested in watching it now. And I will just read the back of it to you first. So, in this nightmare vision of youth in revolt, 15-year-old Alex and his friends set out on a diabolical orgy of robbery, rape, torture, and murder. Alex is jailed for his teenage delinquency, and the state tries to reform him, but at what cost? This book is about your humble narrator, Alex. He's 15 years old, and he is on the streets committing crimes. They call it ultra violence or something, or extreme violence. They're committing crimes. There should be a trigger warning in this book. They assault teenage children, girls, and then he gets locked in jail, and then the state is like, oh, we are gonna try this new method of making people good again, and essentially they try to brainwash him. So they feed him medication that makes him really nauseous, and then they force him to watch this extreme violence on a big screen, and he can't look away, and then his brain starts associating extreme violence with being nauseous and feeling sick. And then after a while, every time he even thinks about something violent, he gets sick. And then he gets let out of prison and he can live his life again, and then essentially he is now turned good by force. And the book questions kind of about themes like punishment, revenge, free will, and the nature of evil. And it's really interesting because the characters in this book are also actually thinking about these themes, and there are a few quotes that I thought were really interesting. For example, one of the characters says, "Goodness is something chosen. When a man cannot choose, he ceases to be a man." And then in a different scene, a character says, "Is a man who chooses the bad perhaps in his own way better than a man who has the good imposed on him?" Food for thought. So I thought those were really interesting topics to think about. And then also A Clockwork Orange is written in this made-up language. So the main character is obviously he's a street rat, and he talks in street language, but the author, Anthony, he wanted this book to feel timeless, and of street languages changes all the time, so he made up his own language. It's called net set slang, and the characters talk in this language. And it's so crazy because when you start reading the book, it's hard to understand what they are all saying and what they're all meaning, but as you go along you start understanding this language, and it gets easier and easier. But the thing is, at first I got kind of hung up on how I couldn't understand what the characters were saying in the beginning of the book. And then I kind of gave up. I kind of gave up trying to understand. I was just I'm just going to read through the text, even though I might not understand it, and I'll just see where it takes me. And then by doing that, I started understanding what they were saying. And then at the end of the book, it was perfectly clear what they were talking about. which is so crazy. I gave up trying to understand the language, and then I started learning language by reading the book, which was it's such a cool experience. It was really surprising to me, and it really like kind of blew my mind actually. It was very interesting. What I also thought was really interesting was this main character, Alex. He was like a bad main character, like a bad guy, but also he was really charming in a sense too. For example, he really likes classical music, which was such a contrast to like the crimes that he was committing. And then he came home and he put on this classical music in his room, and he was like, ranting about how amazing music is. And also just the way he sometimes there were like scenes where he was thinking about something, and like his softer side kind of showed through. Yeah, it was such an interesting book. It really like makes you think, and just the experience of kind of learning this made up language while you're reading it is so cool. It was so cool. I really like this. I was also like really interested in this book because at first like the crimes, it was just they were just violence, you know. But then once he got locked up and they started like trying to brainwash him into being good, that was so interesting to read about, and then how the different characters in the book were feeling about this method. It was just a really really interesting book. I really recommend this. I do think like the made up language makes it harder to read. It's like at the first few chapters, it's not relaxing at all. But then once you get into it, it's very nice. And I understand why it's a classic. I do understand, because that was a crazy experience. Yeah, that was A Clockwork Orange. And then I have one more book that I read in June, which is also which is also kind of unhinged. This book is another romance book, like spicy romance, and it's part 3 of the Twisted series. And this was Twisted Hate by Huang. Huang, do I say it correctly? And it's an enemies to lovers / enemies with benefits story. So yeah, I've been reading the Twisted series now this year. This is part 3 in the Twisted series, and I will just read the back of the book to you from my e-reader. Are you ready? He hates her, almost as much as he wants her. Gorgeous, cocky, and fast on his way to becoming a hotshot doctor. George Chen has never met a woman he couldn't charm, except for Jules fucking Ambrose. The beautiful redhead has been a thorn in his side since they met, but she also consumes his thoughts in a way no woman ever has. When I'm reading this out loud, it's so bad. When their animosity explodes into one unforgettable night, he proposes a solution that'll get her out of his system once and for all. An enemies with benefits arrangement with simple rules. No jealousy, no strings attached, and absolutely no falling in love. Yeah, right. Outgoing and ambitious, Jules Ambrose is a former party girl who's focused on one thing, passing the attorney's bar exam. The last thing she needs is to get involved with a doctor who puts the sufferer in insufferable, no matter how good looking he is. But the more she gets to know him, the more she realizes there's more than meets the eye to the man she's hated for so long. Her best friend's brother, her nemesis, and her only salvation. Theirs is a match made in hell, and when the demons from their past catch up with them, they're faced with truths that could either save them or destroy everything they worked for. So yeah, that's Twisted Hate. At the beginning of the book, they completely hate each other, and then they start doing this like friends with benefits thing, or like enemies with benefits, I guess. And then, who would have expected it? They fell in love. Oh no. The story was good for like the first half, and then Jules started getting blackmailed by some like her ex-boyfriend, and she had to steal something from Josh. And that whole part of the book was so incredibly unrealistic. It like really just took me out of the book. I did not like that at all. It just did not make sense at all. Like everything that happens, and then she steals something from Josh, and his reaction to her stealing something is also insane. So yeah, like I really liked the first half of the book, but then it just got bad, you know. And also this book was again too long. It's like more than 500 pages. We don't need that much information on these characters. I'm sorry, only Jules was a nice character. everyone else in this book, like, just boring as people. I'm sorry. And once again, like I said about dark romance, also, what's up with all the male love interests that are actually assholes? What's hot about that? I don't understand. Don't understand. I read the Goodreads reviews on this book, and someone actually said, I wrote this down because it made me laugh. Someone said, the small dick energy radiating off this man can be felt from Pluto. And now that's correct. That is correct. That is one small dick energy man. I don't like his ass. Yeah. So, but I did like Jules. Jules is a 10 out of 10 girl. Loved her as a main character. She was really funny and smart and just interesting. Just a really interesting character. I really like Jules. That was the third book I read. It do be a fun book. It do be a fun read. Like, it's written really easily. You blast through it. There's some nice spicy scenes in there. There's some cute stuff in there too. The main characters are kind of annoying sometimes, but most of the time they're okay. It's just a good book, but they're nice books, but they're not like good, you know? They're not mind-blowing, but they're a fun read. They're a fun read. I think if you are on a holiday or something, on the beach, you want to read something fun, something that you don't have to think about, these are good books. What can I say? Those were the 3 books I read in June. Yeah. I don't know how to explain to you why my reading taste is like this. I don't know either. I don't know what went wrong, girl. I don't know. But yeah. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I did. And please like and subscribe. Leave a comment or something. Recommend me more unhinged books. Would be nice. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.